Hey, what's going on, you guys? Hey, welcome back to another episode with iTrek. Huge shout out to all the iTrek fan, man, that is tapping in at this very moment. Huge shout out to the chat. Big shout out to all the members, man. I appreciate you guys. If this is your first time here, what we like to do is take a look at the most interesting and creepy videos. If you haven't already, smash that like button for me, smash that subscribe button. Let's go ahead and jump right into it.
This guy spent 9 years photographing the same street corner, and what he found says something uncomfortable about all of us. Welcome back to Art Snacks, where small ideas feed big thoughts. Bon appétit! Between 2007 and 2016, Danish photographer Peter Funch stood every morning at the corner of 42nd Street and Vanderbilt Avenue in New York, right outside Grand Central. Same spot, same hour, camera in hand, quietly capturing people on their way to work. At first, the photos seemed like ordinary street shots of strangers rushing somewhere, lost in thought. But when you look closer, you realize some of those strangers appear again months or even years apart. The same person, and sometimes even the same posture, the same coffee cup, and the same distracted expression. Funch spent nearly a decade returning to that one corner to expose the patterns hidden in our routines. How even in a city of millions, we repeat the same gestures, walk the same path, and play out the same private rituals without noticing. It's a reminder that change feels constant, but maybe we're not changing as much as we think.
Hey, so basically we are who we are. You could like it or love it.
Mysterious signal is emitting from a classified network of defense satellites built by SpaceX, according to a report by NPR. The Starshield satellites seem to be transmitting to the Earth's surface on frequencies normally used for sending commands to satellites in space. The unusual transmissions could interfere with other commercial and scientific satellites, according to experts.
Apparently billionaires have some top secret rules, like the fact that guys like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg are known to schedule and have fake flights fly, just so people don't know what plane they're actually on. This video went viral a couple years ago about how Jeff Bezos moves in public. He travels with a bodyguard that uses a fake hand so his real hand can always be on his weapon, just in case. A few years ago, Mark Zuckerberg really installed what he called a panic chute in the Facebook headquarters. It's basically a giant slide that takes him to the bottom of the building in case it's ever getting attacked. Donald Trump travels in two of the same exact cars to keep his real location hidden, and that is because he's the president, but the Saudi royal family is known to do the same thing. It's said that at any event or any conversation, if Elon Musk taps his watch twice, it's a cue for his assistant or any of his 20 security guards to get him out of there. While Jeff Bezos would close his laptop and flip his pen to end meetings, Steve Jobs would close his notebook to do the same, and if you were ever in a conversation with Steve Jobs and he said, "Let's walk," it meant he was trying to find a way out of that conversation.
Hey, you know, life has so many levels, and it's interesting to see what it's like on that billionaire level. They play by a whole different set of rules, and it's quite interesting.
The law of attraction states that like attracts like, but I never thought it would go this far. This is a drop of my blood, and surprisingly, McCormick red food coloring looks exactly the same as a drop of blood. So, it's attracted to it? What? Today I'm going to show you why food coloring is not only attracted to my blood, but it's attracted to food. And when you put a bunch of drops of food coloring together, they sense each other, move, and react as if alive, locked in a continual dance of attraction and escape. This is a video about the mystery of attractive liquids.
In 2009, an undergraduate at the University of Wisconsin was doing an experiment where he dropped some drops of food coloring onto a sterile glass slide. To his astonishment, the drops seemed to come alive. They began moving on their own and interacting with each other. Had he just discovered a new form of life? He studied this phenomenon on his own until later joining the PhD program at Stanford, where he and his team finally got to the bottom of what was going on. They found that these droplets mimicked living cells and could even self-sort. In this video, I'm going to show you how this works and even show exactly what to do to mimic this experiment at home for yourself.
The reason this happens with food coloring specifically is because of a special ingredient called propylene glycol.
There's a pattern every breakout artist follows. Here's how Billie Eilish did it. At 14, she gained access to Gatekeepers the unconventional way. Ocean Eyes went viral on SoundCloud, and suddenly Interscope Records came knocking. She didn't chase the industry chased her. From day one, Billie owned her brand identity. Baggy clothes, neon roots, whisper-sung vocals over dark, minimal beats with her brother Phineas. She wasn't trying to be the next pop star. She was creating a completely new archetype. Everything from her visuals to her messaging screamed authenticity. She leveraged that owned identity into unstoppable momentum. Every single, every music video, every interview reinforced who she was. By the time When We All Fall Asleep, Where Do We Go dropped, she had millions of fans who felt like they knew her personally. Then she drove demand to historic levels. Youngest artist to sweep all 4 major Grammys in one night, stadium tours, Bond theme. Each win created access to bigger gatekeepers, which she leveraged into more driven demand. Most artists stumble into success, but what if you could be strategic about it? That's what this pattern reveals.
And at this day and time, that's the only way to do it. I mean, if you can do it independently, that's probably preferred by any artist. But if you can work out a deal that works out in your favor with a major label, that also seems to be working pretty well for most artists too.
A lot of times when people get to success and don't know that the darkness is coming, that's when you see them trip and fall.
Yeah.
The Oscars. When people win an Oscar, the ultimate darkness is they may not work again.
This guy loved exploring abandoned places, but this time he went too far and it cost him his life. For a simple viral video, he jumped into the pool of an old abandoned school. The water had been stagnant for years, filled with filth and invisible microorganisms. What he didn't know was that a deadly amoeba was lurking there, a parasite capable of entering through the nose and destroying the brain in just a few days. After his dive, everything seemed normal. But a few hours later, he started having severe headaches and nausea, and then his condition quickly worsened. The doctors tried everything, but this infection is almost always fatal. He just wanted to go viral, but he found death instead.
Note to self, stay up out of abandoned pools. There might be amoebas.
The ones you help the most will often be the first to turn against you, even without hearing your side of the story. That's normal, to be expected.
Is the biggest US dollar bill. Not physically largest, but largest denomination. It's not the $100 bill, not even close. These are the top 5 highest denomination US currency bills ever made. One of these you're not even legally allowed to own. Number 5, the $500 bill. These were printed between 1861 and 1945, and they were primarily used for transactions between banks, though some saw circulation publicly. Multiple people appeared on these bills over the years, including US Chief Justice John Marshall and Presidents Abraham Lincoln and William McKinley. Oh, and none of the bills on this list are currently printed, so a lot of them are collector's items, and they go for a lot more than their face value nowadays. Well, APMEX has one of the William McKinley versions of the $500 bill going for just under $2,000 right now. But some of the later ones are worth way more. Number 4, the $1,000 bill. Similar to the $500 bill, these were printed between 1861 and 1945. The very first ones had Robert Morris on the front. I had no idea until now who Robert Morris was, even though I live very close to Robert Morris University. His Wikipedia article says that he was a financier and a founding father of the United States. Several other people have also appeared on the 20 different versions of the $1,000 bill, including Alexander Hamilton and Grover Cleveland. And in terms of current value, APMEX has one of the Grover Cleveland versions on sale for about $4,300. Number 3, the $5,000 bill. Now we're getting to the cool ones. Guess how much a graded $5,000 bill sold for at auction recently? I'll give you a few seconds to comment your guess while I tell you that just like the $500 and the $1,000 bills, these $5,000 bills were used primarily for transactions between banks. And they were also printed between 1861 and 1945. 9 different versions of the $5,000 bill, and it looks like James Madison was the only person to ever appear on any of them. Now, are you ready for how much one of these could be worth today? A single graded $5,000 bill sold for $144,000 in 2024. But in 2023, a different graded $5,000 bill sold for a crazy $300,000. Coincidentally, if someone shared this video with you, it's because they need to borrow $300,000, and this is their way of asking for it. Or it's because they found this video interesting. It's one of those 2 reasons. But number 2, the $10,000 bill. This was the highest denomination of US currency to be used publicly, although like the others, it was used primarily for transactions between banks. Okay, here we go. Unlike the others, these were printed from 1878 until 1934, so we finally have different years. The Wikipedia article shows 9 different versions of the $10,000 bill. Salmon P. Chase and Andrew Jackson were the only 2 people to appear on any of the versions. But how much are these worth today? Are you sitting down? Because in 2023, a graded $10,000 bill sold at auction for a whopping $480,000. But that's nothing compared to number 1, the $100,000 bill. These were only printed from 1934 to 1935. They all had Woodrow Wilson on the face and were used exclusively for transactions between Federal Reserve banks. None of these were ever circulated publicly. Only about 42,000 of these were made, and most of them were destroyed in the years following their creation. So how much is one of these $100,000 bills worth today? I have no idea, because they're actually illegal for private citizens to own, so they're essentially priceless. The Smithsonian Institution and the Federal Reserve System are 2 of the few places that are known to actually own some of these $100,000 bills. I, for one, definitely don't secretly own one of these.
I bet you had no clue there was a $100,000 bill. Don't cap. I know.
Can you tell when there's an air marshal on board? I can, but you can't. And I can't tell you when. Are there air marshals on board all flights? There might be. Is it likely? Maybe. That's something I can't really get into, but do I know if they're on board? Yeah, I know if they're on board. How many checklists do you go through before takeoff? There are 10 normal checklists on a Boeing 777. I go through 4 or 5 of them for takeoff, and then another couple in flight, and I think 3 for landing. So it would be before start checklist, it would be a before engine start checklist, engine start, taxi. Then when I get up to altitude, there's a cruise checklist, there's a descent checklist, and then after I land, there's a after landing checklist, there's a secure checklist, and a parking checklist. If that adds up to 10, I think I got all of them from memory. Have you ever had to enter a holding pattern for hours? Well, I've entered a lot of holding patterns, but not for hours. Usually for minutes. Probably an hour is the longest I've ever stayed in a holding pattern, and that was because there was a crash at an airport, and we ended up diverting to another airport.
What's the one way you can actually tell if someone's emotionally intelligent? According to NASA, it's all about their laugh. As author Charles Duhigg explained in his book Super Communicators, back in the 80s, NASA's search for astronauts for the International Space Station led them to an interesting discovery. The best astronauts? Basically personality hires, or, also rocket scientists. At the time, NASA was having a lot of trouble with astronauts getting depressed and not getting along with each other during long space missions. And that wasn't going to work on the months-long missions to the International Space Station. So they started going through old job interview tapes to see if there might be something that the most successful astronauts all had in common. And it turned out it was how they laughed. Specifically, whether or not they matched the interviewer's energy. If she laughed big, they laughed big. If he just chuckled, they just chuckled. That kind of mirroring is a vital part of human connection and emotional intelligence. We've all been in the situation where we're laughing our head off and everyone else in the room is just kind of smiling. You feel dumb and isolated. NASA found that those who had a good sense of humor and were adept at that emotional mirroring part of laughter made not only the best astronauts, but the most resilient and harmonious teams of astronauts. NASA is now digging into similar research today as it tries to plan an eventual mission to Mars, which will involve years-long missions in cramped conditions. So, being extroverted, agreeable, having high coping ability, which all tend to be highly correlated to a good sense of humor, emotional intelligence, and being adept at this whole emotional mirroring laughter thing, are going to be pretty vital skills to survive this kind of high-pressure, emotionally turbulent environment. So the next time someone tries to shrug you off as a mere personality hire, let them know that actually you're basically a rocket scientist. And the next time you want to assess someone's emotional intelligence, the way they laugh might be all the data you need.
I mean, if you actually plan on being an astronaut and going to Mars and going to the moon, you had better have a great sense of humor, because a lot of those situations you might end up in won't be so funny.
If you put your hand over a flashlight, it makes your hand glow bright red. So what if you shine a super bright flashlight into your mouth? Will it light up your brain and the light will come out of your pupils? So this is only 500 lumen, but when I double click it, it goes to 32,000 lumen. Here we go. Oh, God. Holy crap, you guys, I just went back and looked at that footage. It actually went up through my eyes. You could see through this eye, you could see the light coming out of it, the red light coming out of my pupil. That was crazy. I need to try that again. I could only hold it on there for a little bit of time because the light got so hot in my mouth. Also, I knew that it was light coming from the inside of my head and not some reflection on my eye because it was completely dark in the room. Also, because the light that's hitting my retina didn't go through my eye first and get flipped like normal, it actually appeared so that anything that hit the bottom of my retina appeared in the top view of my vision.
Korea's right there. Look, no lights at all. Then you turn around, look at this. The difference is insane.
And the craziest part, nobody crosses that bridge. There's no escape.
Imagine being born there.
Humans are stirring up this whole process. They're encouraging it. And so what I ask people is, are the thoughts in your head, the intrusive thoughts, is it God can never forgive you for what you've done? Or is it God can never forgive me for what I've done, the pronouns? And it's typically it's you for what you've done, third party. And it's like, hey, that's a demon. And the people who tell me I'm telling it to myself, I'm like, hey, the demons have trained you on the script, and now you're regurgitating the script.
Which is worse.
It's worse because it's closer to suicide, which is the inevitable. They can't kill us, right? It's Job. You can torment them but not kill them. And so they try to get us to kill ourselves. They torment us to the point of suicide. It's always the end goal. Take a player off the board, and also hurt God in the process. It's a win-win for the demons.
Disturbing facts that may ruin your day. Your brain blocks out the feeling of your organs moving around inside of your body at all times. After giving birth, some women can feel their organs sliding back into place as their uterus shrinks. Human babies are helpless at birth compared to other animals because our brains grow so big. We evolved to give birth earlier in our development so that we don't severely hurt the mother while coming out of the birth canal. Your nose is always in your line of sight. Your brain just chooses to ignore it. You could look at any object and your tongue already knows what it feels like to lick it. You could have 2/3 of your liver removed and it would regenerate itself. If your immune system found out that you had eyes, it would attack them and you would go blind. No matter how hard you strain, you're only using about 60% of your full strength. If your brain didn't stop you, you could tear your muscles and break your bones just trying to throw a ball as hard as you can. When you hear about mothers lifting cars, this is thought to be the fight or flight adrenaline temporarily overriding that limit. If you have surgery and they have to take out your intestines, they put them in a bowl next to them while they work. Your intestines wiggle around in the bowl like snakes the whole time.
Scientists at Stanford have figured out how to hypnotize people using magnets, and it only takes 90 seconds. They developed a technique called shift, which uses targeted magnetic pulses to make the brain way more open to hypnosis. It works through transcranial magnetic stimulation, a totally non-invasive method that zaps specific brain areas linked to hypnotizability. In a test on 80 fibromyalgia patients who were normally hard to hypnotize, those who got the shift treatment became significantly more responsive to hypnotic suggestions. No pills, no weird pendulums, just brain stimulation that could make hypnotherapy way more effective, especially for things like chronic pain.
Bro, there are definitely some unexplainable celebrity deaths, like Left Eye from TLC.
Oh, Left Eye? What about her?
When she died, she was actually in Honduras on like a spiritual awakening journey, and she was filming a documentary. About 2 weeks into her journey and filming this documentary, her and her crew get in a car accident and actually hit a 10-year-old boy and kill him. Left Eye took this super hard, right? A lot of her crew said that the reason that she took this death so serious was because she thought that there was a spirit following her, trying to kill her, and it took the wrong person because the little kid's last name was Lopez.
Same name?
Her name is Lisa Lopez.
Oh my.
So she offered to pay for the kid's entire funeral. The kid's mom actually liked that, and so she gave Left Eye his shoes, right? Well, that's when everything took like a 180. She noticed that written on them were the initials LL, Lisa Lopez. And that to her confirmed she was the one that was supposed to die that day, not that little boy. She actually, during this documentary, there's a part in it where she says, I don't think I have much time left on this earth. I think I'm gonna die soon.
No, she knew she was gonna.
This is like rolling down the hill in a car, knowing you're gonna hit something at the bottom, never stepping on the brakes.
All of her crew started reporting that cameras would turn on or malfunction and not record when they wanted them to, or that the audio devices would record people speaking in languages that they'd never heard before. All of this crazy, unexplainable stuff that is real and caught on a real documentary. It's not like this is just hearsay. This stuff is caught on camera. A couple weeks after that kid's death, one day she was driving her car with her friends while the cameras were rolling, and the car just flipped out of nowhere. She was thrown from the car, cracked her skull open, and she died. And it is one of those situations that it's just like, how do you explain that?
I've noticed a pattern of people talking about things that they've noticed towards the end of their life. And even people around them will notice differences in people, right? They're like start to kind of nest or fix their life just before it's time for them to go. So it's interesting that he said all that because it kind of just adds more to the things that I've been noticing. That's interesting. Let me know what you think about it.
Guy had a friend who he personally saw do things that were not supposed to be possible. You only see in Marvel movies. Superhuman speed and physically growing in front of him. Background story of it is when he was a kid, he was recruited to work for an entity and he accepted. And when he did that, it took him into this whole other life where he would access other realms through, first to be sleep dreaming and lucid dreaming.
Yeah.
But then it got to the point where, and this guy who I'm talking to told me that it happened right in front of him. He called his friend because his brother was going through something. He's like, I don't know who to call. I'm going to call my friend who does this weird stuff. And he shows up and his friend says to him, it's going to get weird right now. I need you to stay calm.
Wow.
And he said then his friend grew like 7 inches in front of him. And when he was done growing, looked at him and said his friend's name and said, he's not here right now, but he'll be back soon. And he invites this thing into his house. He's like, it looked like him, but it didn't look like him. And then when his friend came back, he shrunk back down. He was exhausted and he walked away and he said, I got to go home and rest. But I say this because I know it sounds like a movie, but I was able to track down people connected to this story who verified this.
Yeah.
And nobody seems to want to actually come out and talk about it except for this one guy who wasn't directly involved in this big story. And so it's an ongoing thing, I suppose. But I say this because one of the things that I was faced with was like, if this is true, like we're talking about something, recruiting people to work for it.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the time that I first heard that story, other people were coming to me saying the same thing, that I hadn't aired it yet. Like nobody knew that I had this story.
Wow.
And I was like, what is going on? And I've uncovered, it has to be like at least a dozen of people's stories that haven't all been on the show because they don't want to talk. Like the one guy, I called him and he walked off the factory floor that he was working at night. Within 3 minutes, he's sobbing, maybe 30 seconds, crying his eyes out, scared to tell his wife what he's been through. He cuts it off. And we were supposed to record, and he told me, he's like, listen, since I talked to you, things have been getting really bad and weird. I'm scared. Lose my number. Don't ever talk to me again.
Yeah.
And so we never talked again.
It sounds like a demon, but then on the other hand, it sounds like something else. You know what I mean? It sounds like extraterrestrial type thing. I don't know. That's a very interesting. Give me some of your guesses down in the comments.
So Brandon Biggs is the guy who made the prophecy that Trump would get hit in the ear. Now he's back again, making another prophecy that there's going to be a huge ship going across the ocean in the days ahead.
Saw these major alien ship, and it flies over the Vatican, and it goes over the Mayan temples down in Mexico. And I said, Lord, is there two of these? Because I keep praying about this. And he said, no, it's just one. And that's what's going to make everybody freak out because they're going to see it moving across the ocean. You understand? It's going to be something that's going to be on TV. It's going to move across the ocean. And people are going to freak out in the days ahead. Then I saw little bitty ships coming out of this mothership that were balls of light. And it wasn't a real ship. It was demonic looking light that was traveling around causing confusion in our skies. You say, Brandon, that sounds way out there. Yeah, it is. It was way out there to me. I didn't even want to talk about it. But I'm instructed to. You say, well, Brandon, that sounds like you're on something. Well, no, folks, I'm just here to warn you. I'm just here to warn you. And as wild out there as a sound, fearful sights you will see that will bring you to your knee. I'm here to warn you. The enemy is not playing fair with trying to deceive people with what's coming. He's going to throw all the curveballs he can to try to deceive the nations. When the Antichrist steps on the scene and he says, hey, we have a solution for all the problems in the days ahead. I have peace. I'm going to bring peace. I'm going to bring in prosperity. I'm going to do all this. But all you have.
So he says a big ship is coming. Here's the question. Are there big ships? Well, people who study underwater have said that there are football-size things underwater moving at least 200 miles per hour.
You received intelligence that suggests that there are perhaps deep water alien bases right now sitting on the ocean floor on this planet. Is that accurate?
I would say that's pretty accurate.
Can you go into more detail? How long have they been here? Where are they?
Well, I'm extrapolating all this with my East Tennessee vernacular. So we've got five or six deep water areas of our oceans. We actually know more about the surface of the moon than we do about these areas. And these are areas where we have a high frequency of UFO or UAP sightings. We've had naval folks have told me pretty high up that they've actually tracked these things. Now, we have stuff that can go underwater probably 30 to 40 miles an hour, maybe something a little faster that the Chinese haven't stole from us yet. And we've tracked things big as a football field going 200 miles an hour. Now, I realize in the water you extrapolate that to knots and all that, but just for good old East Tennessee common sense, 200 miles an hour, something the size of a football field. And we don't know what it is.
200 miles per hour, the size of a football field. Here's my question, guys. Was the movie Independence Day showing future events? I don't know. But here's what I gotta tell you. Be close with the Lord. No matter what the situation is, no matter what's to come. Because at the end of the day, God is your covering. No matter what you see in this reality. Amen?
Now, when the Brandon Briggs guy, predicted the whole Trump thing, a lot of people might have called that a fluke, and it might have been. But if this actually does come to pass and we do start to see ships the size of football fields and things like that in the sky, it only leads to a few different things. And the next thing that's going to confirm it is the Antichrist popping out of nowhere and just start talking about a one world religion and all these different things. It's only confirmation of one thing: the greatest story ever told. And you know what that is. Go look it up.
She entered a marathon as a model, but left it fighting for her life. In 2011, Terria Pitt was competing in a 100-kilometer ultramarathon through the Australian bush. But 30 kilometers in, she found herself completely surrounded by a sudden bushfire. She was stuck for over 4 hours, with her skin literally melting to rocks before a helicopter finally arrived to airlift her out. But her nightmare was far from over. She had lost 7 fingers, had severe burns to 65% of her body, and fell into a coma. Doctors gave her almost no chance of survival. But while she lay in a coma, her boyfriend Michael bought an engagement ring, believing she would pull through. When she awoke from her coma, doctors broke the news that she'll likely never walk again. Michael quit his job to take care of her, as she underwent over 200 operations and spent 2 years in recovery. And today, she's not only walking, but she competes in the hardest endurance races on the planet, Ironman triathlons.
If that isn't true love, I don't know what is. She was burnt to a crisp, but it didn't mean anything to him. And shout out to her for still being brave enough to continue to compete, man. It's wild.
If you put food out in the sun, it gets dehydrated. If I put food out in the full moonlight, it gets putrefied. It putrefies really fast. So it rots. It's exactly opposite. And then you can also, at nighttime, when the moon is full, you can pull out a thermometer and put it out in the light of the moon, right? And let's say, as an example, the thermometer reads 70 degrees in the full moonlight. If I put it in the shade of the moonlight, it actually gets warmer. And I pull it out, it gets colder again. So the moon's light is cold. It's not hot, so it's not reflecting the sun. It has nothing to do with the sun. That's what I mean by it's its own light. And that's a simple scientific experiment. Anybody can do it. Thermometer. I don't know if you've ever done it, but I've lived in the northern climates before, and a lot of times if I park my car under a tree, I'll come out to my windshield, to my car in the morning, and half of my windshield will be frozen and the other half won't be. It's happened many, many times, and I never really thought about it until a few years ago, and I put it all together. I'm like, wow. The reason it frosted over is because the full moon light hit that part of the windshield, and this part was underneath the tree in the shade.
So we're rotating around the Earth, the sun. The sun.
Exactly. I'm proposing to you that the sun and the moon are moving around us, just like it looks like. They are the same size, not 400 miles further, bigger, and 400 times further apart. It's very much the same. The sun, and as astrologically speaking, I think the moon has just as much of an impact as the sun on us. One is our conscious side, one's our unconscious side. One's gold, one's silver, one's hot, one's cold. From our perspective, the moon and the sun are the same size from our perspective. But they tell us, science tries to tell us that we're going around the sun and the moon's going around us. It looks like, and from our experience, it looks like the sun and the moon are different. They're the exact same size. They have power. We can feel their power. Like if you believe in astrology at all, like all of our ancestors have always believed it. They believe that the sun, the moon, and all the stars, each of the individual stars have their own power. They have their own potency that they're affecting us. So like if you're born on a particular day of the year, that's your sun sign. You're a Gemini. And then the exact day that you're born will know, okay, that's where the moon was in the sky. And then they can take a picture of the entire sky. They know exactly where all the planets were the moment you were born. And that's going to impact your entire life. All of our ancestors said the sun is masculine, the moon's feminine. I mean, we can just go on and on and on. And it makes sense. Like if you see the world like that, everything starts clicking. Like all these weird questions that we have from our perspective, from our society, they're all science questions. They're like, well, if we this and that, then and then you come up with all these weird questions. But if you just see the Earth as simple, that's how I see it. It's just very simple. Basically what it boils down to is the sun is not the center of our galaxy. We are. The sun, the moon, all the planets are revolving around us. And not just us as a whole, but I like to tell people, like, your mom and dad told you the world doesn't revolve around you. And I like to tell them, yeah, it does, actually. It totally revolves around you. Whatever you think and believe is the world that you're going to have. Your thoughts, your perspective, the things you expect happen. We live in a magical universe.
Yeah, he kind of brought it back home at the end. You go outside with a negative attitude, see where it gets you. But if you go outside with a positive attitude, positive mindset, see where that gets you. These things are real and it all has to do with you.
So NASA backwards spells Asan. Asan means Lord Shiva. And there's a statue of Lord Shiva outside of CERN.
You're not buying the 3i Atlas countdown thing. Well, let me hit you with the facts that they're not talking about. 3i Atlas, it changed color in one night. Yeah, I bet you didn't know that. September 7th, red to green. Never before seen in space. It's got a tail that's pointing the wrong direction toward the sun. That's not how comets work. It's spewing industrial nickel, the exact same chemical process we use here in factories on Earth. And here's the kicker. It is 1,000 times more massive than any interstellar object we've ever seen, traveling backwards at 130,000 miles per hour. October 29th, it disappears. November, we'll find out. Part 3 coming.
These are some morbid facts about atomic bombs. During a test in 1951, an atomic bomb cameraman accidentally ripped off his safety goggles a few seconds before the bomb exploded. He immediately covered his eyes with his hands, and when the bomb detonated, he saw the bones of his hands through his closed eyelids just like an X-ray. The Soviets' Tsar Bomba was the largest bomb ever set off by far. It was 3,500 times stronger than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima and sent shockwaves that traveled around the Earth 3 times. In 1961, the U.S. Air Force accidentally dropped 2 nuclear bombs on North Carolina, each 250 times more powerful than the bomb dropped on Hiroshima, but luckily neither of them exploded. This map shows how far the radiation could have spread if one of them detonated. Not to mention in 1958, the Air Force dropped a 7,600-pound H-bomb in Savannah, Georgia that remains unfound to this day. In 1964, the U.S. Army performed an experiment to see if 3 young physics students could design an atomic bomb. They had no specific knowledge of nuclear weapons and were only given access to publicly available documents. Within 3 years, they succeeded.
That's why everybody should get nervous when you start to hear these countries talk about using nuclear bombs, because complete devastation is going to come right behind it.
These scientists just won the Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine for figuring out how your immune system knows not to attack you. Your immune system is full of these special cells called T cells. Each has a unique receptor, like a lock and key, that lets it recognize infected cells. But because there are lots of different infections, your body makes millions and millions of different T cells, each ready to spot a new intruder and alert the immune system. But how does it know what's an intruder and what's just you? So your body is constantly running all of your T cells through a brutal training camp in your thymus, which is right about here. Any T cells that react to healthy human cells, they're the bad guys. They get destroyed. Only the good ones graduate. Scientists thought that this was the whole story until this guy ran a new experiment. He removed the thymus, that training ground, from mice. And as expected, the bad guys got through. Their bodies started attacking itself. But then he gave them T cells from other mice, so still no training camp, and their bodies stopped attacking themselves. Turns out there's another type of T cell doing extra surveillance all the time. And these 2 scientists figured out how it was controlled. It acts like a cop, keeping rogue cells in check, now known as your regulatory T cells. And this discovery has led to tons of new treatments for cancers and autoimmune diseases. If you think there should be more optimistic science and tech stories, follow along.
Do these images make you uncomfortable? If they do, this is a concept called uncanny valley, where people have a strange, uneasy feeling when they look at robots that are too lifelike, or anything that looks or acts human, but there's something off about them. This concept was introduced in the 70s by a professor at the Tokyo Institute of Technology named Masahiro Mori. He coined the term uncanny valley to describe his observation that as robots appear more human-like, they become more appealing, but only to a certain point. Let me know in the comments if you experience this.
I kind of get the creeps just a little bit when it comes to those wax figures, because I've seen some real good ones, and they, you might think that they're blinking at you and things like that. If you've ever experienced anything like that, let me know in the comments, man, because it's definitely a real thing.
Creepy facts you can't unlearn. Drinking eye drops will kill you. They work by shrinking blood vessels in your eyes. And if ingested, they can shrink blood vessels that lead to your heart, inducing a heart attack. The autopsy will check for this though, so you won't get away with it. A fir tree can grow inside your lung. In 2009, Russian doctors were operating on a 28-year-old man to remove what they thought was a tumor. Instead, they discovered a small fir tree, and his symptom of coughing up blood was caused by the tiny pine needles puncturing his blood capillaries. The man must have inhaled a fur seed, and I guess the environment inside his lung was enough like the environment that furs normally grow in. The tiny tree measured 5 centimeters. The Amber Alert isn't named after a color. It refers to the abduction and murder of Amber Hagerman. A witness saw a man get out of his truck and snatch the child off her bike before speeding off. He called 911, but in child abductions, every minute is crucial and there was no system in place to quickly spread this information. The case went nowhere until Amber was found floating in a creek. Her mother and others pushed for an emergency alert system to be set up in Texas that could quickly spread a child's description along with the vehicle that they might be in. They named the system Amber and it quickly spread across the country. And I have more information on Amber Alert in a separate video. Follow for part 2.
People think it might be dermal vision, like we have senses in our skin. So I work with blind people, and I'm talking people with no eyes, people who were born blind, never seen light a day in their life, and in just a couple of days they're reading, and how do they go from one to the other? They open in the same areas as a sighted person does. We have windows when we open up, and so there's certain places where on our head and on our skin where we're seeing, and so that's why you'll see us, the sighted or blind, you'll see us kind of moving to see more. And it's because we'll have windows. So for example, I worked with a blind woman with no eyes, like she blind since birth, and she's able to see like right here. She's also she can see behind her head too, and down here really, really well. And
the scientific explanation for that is dermal vision.
No, that's just one explanation.
Okay.
It's more like a hypothesis that right now,
Okay.
like we really don't know what's going on. we are still we're in the baby stages of this stuff.
You know what's really unsettling about D'Angelo's passing? The end of this year marked 30 years since his debut album Brown Sugar dropped. The same album that made him a neo-soul legend. And oddly, when I went to his Instagram, I didn't see any posts, almost as if they were deleted. Very interesting. But if that's not strange enough, remember Angie Stone. The mother of his child passed earlier this year too. Their son lost both parents within months, and that's heartbreaking. But what really gets me is the pattern. Angie had just been speaking out about the Universal owing her money.
We began to research things to check on my royalties and my statements, only to find out a lot of my publishing, a lot of my royalties, my mechanicals, they have all pretty much been stolen. Come to find out, Universal Music has been receiving all my royalties, all my mechanicals.
And not too long after she's gone, I don't know, that just doesn't seem right. And let's remember Whitney Houston wanted her masters before she mysteriously passed away, as well as Prince. He was trying to get his masters from Warner Bros. And he dies from natural causes. Now, I'm not saying that it's impossible for D'Angelo to have passed from natural causes. Things like that do happen, but for him to pass right around the 30-year anniversary for his debut album, when he would have finally owned his masters, it just feels a little too convenient for the industry. But let me know what y'all think.
I mean, there aren't too many coincidences quite like that, If you look deeper into it, you always just got to follow the money. That's it.
This is nuclear physicist Dr. John Mullen. He discovered how to generate clean and free energy as opposed to oil. Days after this discovery, he died of arsenic poisoning. Dr. Don Wiley. He found the cure for HIV/AIDS. He mysteriously disappeared and later was found deceased. Dr. Mark A. Smith. He found a treatment for Alzheimer's. He passed away in a freak accident. This is Frank Suarez. He apparently found the cure for cancer. He mysteriously took his own life a couple of days later. I don't know, folks. This is suspicious, blowing my mind when I found out about it.
Uncuddling facts that you wish you never knew, Part 5. Despite if you're using incognito mode, Wi-Fi routers actually keep logs of what websites you visit, and the owner of the router can check this whenever they want. So hopefully you don't have anything to hide. A woman in Russia had a shit ton of twins, triplets, and quadruplets with the same man, totaling to 69 children. Nice. Tarantulas taste like shrimp. According to some cannibals, the most delicious part of the human body is the eyeball, and they especially like licking them. The skin on your lips is the same skin that's on your butthole. Dolphins sometimes bite off the head of a fish and masturbate into the decapitated body. A bubble caused by false vacuum decay could be growing through our universe right now, destroying everything it touches, and we would have no idea because it travels at the speed of light. 2020, please no.
Tarantulas tasting like shrimp is wild, man. Hey, I'll just go eat the shrimp. I don't know about you.
These are human body parts that will disappear one day. Part 2. The ability to flap your ears will soon be a thing of the past. This is because humans have evolved to the point where we don't need to move our ears to detect predators, like how our ancestors did long ago. Next, it's been predicted that males will no longer have nipples, because of evolutionary changes no longer serving a purpose. Toes may also be a thing of the past, as human balance has slowly been moving away from them, and causing them to fuse with the whole foot. There was once a time when our ancestors had tails to help balance our bodies. Over the course of evolution, they disappeared, but we still have a tailbone in our bodies, and scientists are predicting that further down the line, they will disappear entirely. Our natural reaction to cold or fear, goosebumps, will no longer be a thing in the future, as we no longer need the ability to project a larger size to scare off predators. And lastly, wisdom teeth are starting to disappear and will no longer exist, as they used to help our ancestors chew rougher food. But now that our food is much more processed, they're no longer necessary to eat hard food. Now the question is, which one of these will you miss the most?
Hey, now the complete form of all those things changing sounds just like an alien. You know, one of those great aliens that the ears, aren't really there. The feet, everything's fused. It sounds just like an alien if you ask me. That's pretty wild.
Nightmarish facts about your body that you probably shouldn't think about. Due to the brain's lack of pain receptors, brain surgery is often performed while the patient is awake and talking. And in some cases of brain surgery, the surgeon will pull your face forward like a banana. Men's nipples can be stimulated enough to produce milk. Once you turn 30 years old, you can expect to lose half an inch every 10 years. When you developed in the womb, your anus was formed before anything else. So at one point, you were nothing but an asshole. The acid in your body is strong enough to dissolve razor blades, which is why your stomach is in a constant battle to not digest itself. When you get a sunburn, your cells are dying to avoid becoming cancerous. A sneeze can blow out of your nose at over 100 miles an hour. So next time, be careful, because it's actually possible to break a rib simply by sneezing. If you've ever been on a roller coaster and feel like your heartbeat is in your mouth, it isn't your imagination, your organs are actually moving around inside your body.
Most disturbing things ever said by astronauts. In 2003, Chinese astronaut Yang Liwei was the first person from China to go to space. He was sent up all alone when suddenly, at one point during the mission, he hears a knocking sound on the outside of his spaceship. He recalls it as someone knocking the body of the spaceship, like hitting an iron bucket with a wooden hammer. He wasn't even able to recreate it, and to this day, experts have no idea what it could have been. During the Apollo 11 mission in 1969, when Neil and Buzz were on the lunar surface, Neil Armstrong unexpectedly switches to a medical communication channel and spoke directly to the chief medical officer, saying, and I quote, "They're here, they're parked on the side of the crater, they're watching us." This was revealed in a documentary by former NASA employee Ken Johnston, but the original recordings are of course highly classified. Rumored to be a part of the infamous Apollo 11 missing 2 minutes, where on record Mission Control lost radio contact with the astronauts due to technical difficulties. In another 1995 documentary interview, former NASA astronaut Franklin Story Musgrave claimed to have been followed by a white 8-foot-long snake floating through space, saying, quote, "On 2 of my missions, and I still don't have an answer, I have seen a snake out there, 6, 7, 8 feet long. He said it appeared rubbery and followed him for quite a long time, floating in or near Earth's stratosphere." In the same interview, Musgrave also cryptically states that other civilizations have been around for millions of years that are doing unimaginable kinds of things. But they were probably all just joking.
Hey, for our sake, let's just hope that they were joking. I mean, an 8-foot snake in space is wild.
Exact moments TV stations switched to color television.
Through your presence here today, you are contributing to another broadcasting milestone. The cameras you see before you are color cameras. They are now transmitting a black and white picture. By pressing this button, which I now do, the cameras are transmitting a live color picture.
Für das deutsche Fernsehen.
Hey, Jack! The colour! It's leaking through the window!
Dude, a filming thing all over my new carpet!
Ah, look at
It's filling the room! How are we gonna breathe? Quick off of the Wollongong air! I'll try and hold it down. There it is. Hey, look at me, I'm in colour! Come on in, it's lovely! I can't hold it on very long. Here it goes, Arthur! Oh, what a beautiful room!
Et voici la couleur, au jour fixé et à l'heure dit.
Let's first of all address that elephant in the room. Are you a cannibal?
No. You know what you have to do to be a cannibal? You have to have actually eaten someone.
Have you ever eaten any human flesh?
No.
Not a question I thought I'd ever ask them.
Not a question I'd ever thought I'd have to answer, by the way, but no, never.
What do you feel that a large swathe of the public just think Armie Hammer is a cannibal?
If you believe that, I have a bridge to sell you.
So, was he telling me the truth?
No, he was lying to you.
Really?
Absolutely, and
well, he hasn't actually eaten human flesh, though.
We don't know what he personally identifies as cannibalism. We don't know whether it's related to consuming energy. Maybe it's biting. Maybe it's drinking blood. Who has any idea except Armie, right? But the thing that's so fascinating to me, and I'm gonna kiss your ass for just a second. Your questions were so fucking good, man. Your questions were so good through a lens of specifically being able to identify deceptive behavior in the target. I'm guessing it's just come from years of practice. I'm guessing you didn't practice your questions before you sat with him. But the one that's the most powerful to me is you asked him how he felt.
Yeah.
That's called, in strategic espionage, that's called a feelings question. When you ask a feelings-based question, it immediately gives you a window into whether the person is using their reactive brain to answer honestly or their creative brain to come up with a fitting solution. The indicators in that response from him, not only to that question...
Well, I'll tell you what, let's watch it again, and as we go, point out the things that if you were a CIA agent right now and you were watching this, what raised red flags? Let's talk over it as we watch it.
You got it.
Three of them. You just live to obey me and
so
be
right
my
there's
slave.
the first thing. You see him fiddling with his water and fiddling with his sleeve. He is physically showing his discomfort. And you just brought up that you're going to talk about this topic that for sure he knows is coming. So he's getting dry mouth from the nervousness. That's why he's drinking his water.
Body, would you come and be my property till you die?
He's taking a sip of water as he prepares. Now watch what happens next. He's going to start kinetically actually swiveling back and forth in his chair. His nervous energy is actually building up. He knows he has to prepare a story. He has to prepare to react in a way that's been choreographed. So you see the shaking head and the shaking in the full body in the swivel chair. You can also tell by the way his arms are being held, he's crossed his arms underneath the table. That's a closing body posture. A closing body posture demonstrates that you're feeling threatened. And he's leaning back to give himself distance. These are subconscious indicators that show he is not preparing to tell you the truth. He is preparing to tell you some other version of the truth.
You know what you have to do to be a cannibal?
He didn't answer your question. So here's a very interesting technique because he responded to your question with a question. It wasn't enough to just say, no, I am not a cannibal. It wasn't enough to just say, no, and I reject these claims. Instead, he uses almost levity or humor to counter your question with another question. And that's an escape technique whenever somebody's feeling under the pressure.
Now, as he played it back and read his body language, he was on point. The guy was nervous. And I had no clue that was still going on. People still, eating other people. That's just pretty weird. It's pretty weird. But he was on point with that. Well, you guys, that's another one in the books, man. I appreciate you guys for stopping by it again and watching another one with me. If you haven't already, make sure to smash that like button, smash that subscribe button, and join the iTrack fam, man. And I will definitely catch you on the next one.